The colony ship Bright Future drifted through the cold darkness of space, carrying 3,000 human souls toward their new home. Most of them were sleeping in their cryopods, dreaming of green fields and blue skies on a world they had never seen. Among the few who remained awake were the ship's skeleton crew and a small group of children too young for extended cryogenic sleep. Captain Maria Santos walked through the observation deck, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. She stopped by the large window and looked out at the stars. After 15 years of traveling, they were finally close to their destination. The planet Elysium waited for them, a beautiful world with clean air and rich soil. It would be a good place to raise families and build a future. "Captain," said a voice behind her. It was Lieutenant Chen, her second in command. His face looked worried. "We have detected something strange on our sensors." Maria turned away from the window. "What kind of strange?" "Ships, at least 20 of them. They are heading toward us at high speed." Maria felt her stomach tighten. In all their years of space travel, humans had met only a few alien species. Most of them were friendly, or at least not hostile. But there were stories about others, stories that made parents hold their children closer at night. "Can you identify them?" she asked. Chen shook his head. "The computer does not recognize their design. But Captain, they are very fast. They will reach us in less than 2 hours." Maria looked back at the stars, trying to spot the approaching ships. She could see nothing but the eternal darkness and the distant points of light. But somewhere out there, unknown beings were racing toward her ship and the people she had sworn to protect. "Wake the military personnel," she ordered, "and get the children to the safe room." The next hour passed in controlled chaos. Soldiers woke from their cryo-sleep, confused and cold but ready to follow orders. The 23 children on board were gathered in the ship's most protected area, a room deep in the center of the vessel with thick walls and its own life support system. Elena Rodriguez, a former Marine who now served as the ship's head of security, checked her weapons and watched the approaching ships on the tactical display. She had fought in 2 wars back on Earth and had thought those days were behind her. But looking at those alien vessels, she felt the old familiar feeling return. The cold focus, the readiness to do whatever was needed. "They are trying to communicate," Chen announced. The bridge fell silent as strange sounds filled the air. The ship's translation computer worked to make sense of the alien language. After a few moments, words began to form. "Soft creatures of the warm world," the voice said. It was high and cold like wind through dead trees. "We are the Vrakthar. We have been watching your kind for many cycles. You spread across the stars like a sickness, taking worlds that are not yours. Today, we will cure the galaxy of your presence." Maria stepped forward. "This is Captain Santos of the Earth colony ship Bright Future. We are peaceful travelers. We have done nothing to harm you." The alien voice made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peaceful? Your kind killed our scouts when they approached your homeworld. You destroyed our listening posts near your colonies. You are not peaceful. You are predators wearing the mask of prey." "Those actions were defensive," Maria said, trying to keep her voice calm. "Your scouts attacked our ships first. We only protected ourselves." "Lies," the Vrakthar said. "But it does not matter. Your words cannot save you. In 1 hour, every one of your kind on that ship will be dead. We will take your young ones and study them. We want to understand how creatures from such a dangerous world can look so weak." The communication ended. Maria stared at the blank screen, her mind racing. The Vrakthar ships were getting closer with every passing minute. Her ship had only light defensive weapons, designed for protection against small asteroids and space debris. Against 20 warships, they would last perhaps 5 minutes. Elena moved to stand beside her captain. "They mentioned the children," she said quietly. "I heard. What do we do?" Maria looked at her security chief, seeing the same fire in Elena's eyes that she felt in her own heart. On Earth, humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. They had faced predators with sharp teeth and deadly claws. They had survived ice ages and volcanic eruptions. They had built civilizations in deserts and jungles where no other intelligent species could have lasted a single generation. The galaxy called Earth a Deathworld, a planet so dangerous that the mere existence of intelligent life there seemed impossible. Other species looked at humans with a mixture of fear and confusion. How could such soft-looking creatures come from such a terrible place? They were about to find out. "Get me every soldier we have," Maria said. "Every Marine, every security officer, every person who has ever held a weapon. I want them armed and ready." "We only have 53 combat-trained personnel," Elena reminded her. "Then 53 will have to be enough." Maria turned to face the rest of her bridge crew. "The Vrakthar made a mistake. They threatened our children. They think we are soft because we do not look like monsters. They think we are weak because we prefer peace to war." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was hard as steel. "They are about to learn why the galaxy fears Deathworld warriors." In the safe room, the children huddled together. Some of the younger ones were crying, held close by the older kids who were trying to be brave. 8-year-old Tommy Chen, the lieutenant's son, sat in the corner with his arms around his little sister. He could hear the adults running through the corridors outside, their voices urgent but controlled. "Are the bad aliens going to get us?" his sister asked. Tommy thought about his father, about Captain Santos, about all the brave people on the ship who had promised to keep them safe. He thought about the stories his grandfather had told him, stories about humans who had faced impossible odds and refused to give up. "No," he said firmly. "They are not going to get us. The grown-ups will protect us. That is what humans do." Outside, the Vrakthar ships continued their approach, their crews confident in their coming victory. They had destroyed other species before, races that had seemed more dangerous than these soft pink creatures. What could 50 humans do against 20 warships? They did not know. They could not understand. They had never faced a species that had evolved on a world where every day was a battle for survival. They had never encountered beings who would burn themselves alive before letting harm come to their children. The universe was about to teach the Vrakthar a very painful lesson. The first Vrakthar boarding pods hit the bright future like metal fists punching through skin. They crashed through the outer hull in 3 different locations, spilling alien warriors into the corridors of the human ship. The Vrakthar were tall and thin, their bodies covered in hard gray scales. They had 4 arms, each ending in sharp claws, and their heads were flat and wide with many small black eyes. They moved quickly through the ship, expecting to find screaming humans running away in terror. That was what other species had done. That was what prey did when predators arrived. Instead, they found Elena Rodriguez waiting for them. The first boarding pod had opened in Corridor 7, near the engine room. Elena had positioned herself behind a makeshift barrier of cargo containers, her rifle ready. When the Vrakthar emerged from their pod, she did not hesitate. The first alien fell before it knew what was happening. The second and third died a moment later. The fourth tried to raise its weapon, but Elena was faster. She had been shooting since she was 12 years old. She had trained on firing ranges that would have made Vrakthar warriors weep with exhaustion. "Contact in Corridor 7, she said calmly into her communicator. 4 hostiles down, moving to secondary position." The Vrakthar commander, watching from his ship, stared at the video feed in disbelief. His warriors were dying. The soft creatures were fighting back with a speed and precision that should have been impossible. "Send more troops," he ordered. "They cannot kill all of us." But that was exactly what the humans intended to do. In Corridor 12, Sergeant James Okonkwo faced a group of 15 Vrakthar with only 5 soldiers at his side. The aliens charged toward them, confident in their numbers. James had faced worse odds in the streets of Lagos during the water wars. He had learned to fight when fighting was the only way to survive. Hold the line, he told his people. Think of the children. They held the line, they thought of the children, and one by one the Vrakthar fell. The aliens had never experienced anything like this. Other species they had conquered had guards and soldiers, yes, but those soldiers fought like professionals, following rules and protocols. They retreated when the situation became hopeless. They surrendered when defeat was certain. Humans did not retreat. Humans did not surrender. When a human soldier fell, the others fought harder. When they ran out of ammunition, they used knives. When their knives broke, they used their hands. Private Sarah Kim had grown up on a farm in what was once called South Korea. She had learned to work hard under the hot sun, to never complain, to always keep going no matter how tired she was. When a Vrakthar warrior knocked the gun from her hands, she did not run. She grabbed the alien's arm and twisted it until something snapped. Then she took its weapon and kept fighting. "What are these creatures?" one of the Vrakthar soldiers asked his commander. His voice was shaking. "They do not die like normal beings. They do not fear us." "They are prey," the commander insisted. "They must be prey, look at them. They have no claws, no scales, no natural weapons." "Prey does not fight like this," the soldier said. "Prey does not smile while it kills you." The commander looked at the video feed and saw what his soldier meant. The humans were not just fighting. They were not just surviving. They were pushing forward, actually advancing against the Vrakthar boarding parties. And on their faces, some of them wore expressions that the translator could only describe as eager. These creatures enjoyed battle. They had been made for it, shaped by millions of years on a world that killed the weak and made the strong even stronger. Every human on that ship carried the genetic memory of countless ancestors who had faced death and won. The Vrakthar had made a terrible mistake. They had poked a sleeping predator and were now surprised that it had teeth. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge, watching the battle unfold on multiple screens. Her people were winning, but the victory was costing them. 7 soldiers had already died. Another dozen were wounded. And still the Vrakthar kept coming. "How many boarding pods have they sent?" she asked. 12 so far, Chen answered. "And Captain, they are preparing more. I count at least 30 pods on their main ships." Maria nodded slowly. They could not keep this up forever. Eventually, the Vrakthar would overwhelm them through sheer numbers. She needed a different solution. "Chen, how close is the nearest Vrakthar ship?" "About 3 kilometers. Why?" Maria smiled, and it was not a nice smile. "Because I think it is time we stopped playing defense." The Vrakthar commander was trying to coordinate his forces when his ship shook violently. Alarms began screaming. Warning lights flashed red. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Commander," his tactical officer said, his voice filled with something the commander had never heard before. "Fear. The human ship, it is coming toward us. They are trying to escape." "No, Commander, they are ramming us." The bright future was never designed for combat. It was a colony ship, built to carry sleeping humans across the vast distances between stars. But it was also very, very big. And Captain Maria Santos had realized something important. The Vrakthar ships were fast and well-armed, but they were also small. They were built for speed, not strength. And the bright future, while slow and clumsy, had the mass of a small moon. "All hands brace for impact," Maria announced over the ship's speakers. "We are about to make some new friends." The colony ship's engines, designed to push millions of tons through space, roared to life. The vessel began to move, slowly at first, then faster and faster. The Vrakthar commander watched in horror as the massive human ship came straight at him. "Move," he screamed. "Get us out of the way." But the bright future was too close, and the Vrakthar ship was not built for quick maneuvers. The two vessels met in a crash that could be seen from hundreds of kilometers away. The Vrakthar ship crumpled like paper, its hull collapsing under the impact. The bright future shuddered and groaned. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. But the colony ship held together, its human engineers having built it to survive anything that space could throw at it. "One down," Maria said. 19 to go. The other Vrakthar commanders watched in stunned silence as their leader's ship broke apart. This was not possible. No species used their ships as weapons. No species was crazy enough to destroy their own vessel just to take an enemy with them. But humans were not like other species. Humans had a word that other races did not understand: kamikaze, the willingness to sacrifice everything for victory, the belief that some things were worth dying for. The children in the safe room were worth dying for. "All ships retreat," one of the remaining commanders ordered. "Fall back and regroup." "What?" another commander said. "We still outnumber them. We can still win." "Did you not see what just happened? They used their own ship as a weapon. If we destroy them, they will take as many of us with them as they can. These are not normal prey. These are something else." The Vrakthar ships began to pull back, their commanders arguing among themselves about what to do next. They had come expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had found warriors who fought like demons and smiled while doing it. On the bright future, Elena Rodriguez walked through the corridors, stepping over the bodies of fallen Vrakthar. Her rifle was empty, so she had taken one of their weapons instead. Her uniform was torn and stained with alien blood that was both green and purple. She had been fighting for over an hour, and she was tired in a way that went deeper than muscles and bones. But she was not finished yet. Not while those alien ships still hung in space. Not while the children were still in danger. She reached the safe room and pressed her hand against the scanner. The door slid open, and she saw 23 small faces looking up at her with a mixture of fear and hope. "Miss Elena," Tommy Chen shouted, "you came back." Elena knelt down and opened her arms. The children rushed to her, surrounding her with hugs and tears. She held them tightly, these precious little lives that made all the fighting worthwhile. "Are the bad aliens gone?" Tommy's little sister asked. Elena looked up at the ceiling, as if she could see through it to the stars beyond. The Vrakthar were still out there, still dangerous. But they had stopped sending boarding pods. They had seen what humans were capable of, and they were afraid. "Not yet," she said honestly. "But we hurt them bad, and if they try again, we will hurt them worse." Tommy nodded seriously, "Because that is what humans do." "That is right." Elena smiled despite her exhaustion. "That is exactly what humans do." On the bridge, Maria watched the Vrakthar ships hovering at a safe distance. They were not attacking, but they were not leaving either. It was a standoff, and she knew it could not last forever. "Captain," Chen said quietly, "I am receiving a transmission from the Vrakthar." "Put it through." The alien voice that filled the bridge was different from before. It was less confident, more careful. "Human commander, we did not expect such resistance. We have lost many warriors today. You have lost some as well. Perhaps we can discuss terms." Maria felt anger rise in her chest. These creatures had attacked her ship. They had killed her people. They had threatened to take her children for experiments, and now they wanted to negotiate. "Terms?" she said coldly. "You want terms? Here are my terms. You leave right now. You go back to whatever dark hole you crawled out of, and you tell every other species in the galaxy what happened here today. You tell them that humans are not prey. We are not soft creatures to be conquered and studied. We are warriors. We are survivors, and we will burn the universe to ashes before we let anyone hurt our children." There was a long silence. Then the Vrakthar spoke again. "You are alone. You are damaged. You cannot possibly." "I rammed one of your ships with a colony vessel," Maria interrupted. "I have 3,000 sleeping humans on board who will wake up very angry if you kill me. And somewhere out there, the rest of humanity is going to hear about this attack. Do you know what happens when humans get angry? Do you know what we did to each other when we were still stuck on our Deathworld?" She paused, letting her words sink in. "We invented nuclear weapons. We created chemical agents that could kill millions. We built machines designed to cause maximum suffering to our own kind. And that was when we were fighting each other. Imagine what we will do to you." The Vrakthar commanders exchanged looks that their translator could not interpret. They had studied humans, yes. They had seen the records of human wars, the images of destroyed cities and mass graves. They had assumed those were signs of a species that was weak and divided. Now they understood the truth. Humans were not weak because they fought each other. They were dangerous because they fought each other. They had spent thousands of years learning how to kill, how to destroy, how to win at any cost. And they had learned those lessons so well that even their children knew the taste of battle. "We are leaving," the Vrakthar commander finally said. "But this is not over. We will remember this day." "Good," Maria said. "Make sure your whole species remembers. Make sure everyone knows that humans are not to be threatened. Not ever. Because the next time you come at us, we will not just defend ourselves. We will hunt you down. We will find your worlds. And we will do to you what we did to the dinosaurs." The transmission ended. The Vrakthar ships began to turn, their engines glowing as they prepared to leave. Maria watched them go, feeling the weight of the day pressing down on her. They had won, but the cost had been high and the future was uncertain. The Vrakthar would return, or others like them would come. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, filled with species that saw humans as something to be conquered or destroyed. But they had also sent a message today, a message written in blood and fire. Humans were not easy prey. Humans fought back, and when humans were protecting their children, they became something that even the most fearsome aliens learned to fear. Alina arrived on the bridge a few minutes later, the children safely handed off to the medical staff. She stood beside her captain and watched the last Vrakthar ship disappear into the darkness. "We did it," she said quietly. "For now," Maria turned to look at her. "But you know this is just the beginning. Word will spread. Some species will stay away. Others will want to test us to see if the stories are true." Alina nodded. "Then we will show them every time until they learn." Maria smiled tiredly. "Until they learn." In the following weeks, the bright future limped toward Elysium. The damage from the battle was severe, and the ship's engineers worked around the clock to keep everything running. But they made it. They reached their new home and began the long process of waking the colonists and building their new lives. The story of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy. Other species heard about the colony ship that had rammed a warship. They heard about the 50 humans who had fought off hundreds of aliens. They heard about the captain who had threatened to burn the universe to protect her children. Some species laughed and said it was propaganda. Others listened carefully and updated their records on humanity. The smart ones added a new entry to their databases. Do not provoke. Do not threaten. Do not touch their young. But there were always those who did not listen, who thought they were stronger or smarter than those who had come before. And so the lessons continued, written in the blood of aliens who learned too late what Deathworld warriors were capable of. Tommy Chen grew up on Elysium, surrounded by green fields and blue skis. He became a soldier like his father, then a teacher who told the next generation about the day the Vrakthar came. He always ended his story the same way. "They thought we were prey," he would say. "They looked at us and saw soft skin and small teeth. They did not understand that the most dangerous predators do not always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like you and me. Sometimes they look like mothers and fathers and children who just want to live in peace. But threaten that peace, threaten those children, and you will see what humans really are." His students would listen with wide eyes, the children of the stars who had never known Earth but still carried its fierce spirit in their blood. They were the future of humanity, soft-looking and kind-hearted, peaceful by preference but deadly when provoked. Just like their ancestors, just like all humans everywhere, warriors of the Deathworld, ready to defend everything they loved. The galaxy had been warned. The lesson had been taught. And somewhere out there, alien commanders told their troops stories about the day they learned never to threaten human children. Never again, they said, never again. Years passed, and the colony on Elysium grew into a thriving civilization. The people of the bright future built cities and farms, schools and hospitals. They raised families and grew old under alien skies that had become home. But they never forgot the battle that had marked their arrival. They never forgot the price of freedom. Every year, on the anniversary of the fight, the colonists held a ceremony. They read the names of the 7 soldiers who had died defending the ship. They honored their sacrifice and reminded the children why they had been saved. Captain Maria Santos served for 10 more years before retiring to a small farm on the outskirts of the main settlement. She spent her final days watching the sunset, thinking about the vastness of the galaxy and all the dangers it held. She died peacefully in her sleep at the age of 92, surrounded by family and friends who called her a hero. Elena Rodriguez became the colony's first defense minister, building a security force that could protect Elysium from any threat. She trained young men and women in the arts of war, teaching them not just how to fight, but when to fight and what to fight for. Never start a battle, she would tell them, but always finish it. And remember, we are not soldiers because we love violence. We are soldiers because we love something worth protecting. The Vrakthar kept their distance for many years. Their defeat at the bright future had shaken their confidence, and the stories that spread through the galaxy made other species cautious as well. Humanity expanded slowly, establishing new colonies and building relationships with friendly aliens who saw them as partners rather than prey. But the universe is vast, and time has a way of making people forget. New generations of Vrakthar grew up hearing about the battle, but they did not believe the stories. They thought their ancestors had exaggerated, that the humans could not possibly be as dangerous as the old tales said. And so, 50 years after the first battle, a new Vrakthar commander decided to test humanity again. His name was Krexel, and he was young and ambitious. He had risen through the ranks of the Vrakthar military by being bold and aggressive. He did not believe in old legends or ancient warnings. He believed in power, and he was certain that the Vrakthar were more powerful than the soft creatures who lived on Elysium. The humans have grown complacent, he told his officers. They have not faced a real enemy in 2 generations. They have forgotten how to fight. Now is the time to strike. His fleet was larger than the one that had attacked the bright future. He had 50 warships and 10,000 warriors. He had weapons that his ancestors could not have imagined. He was confident that this time the humans would fall. He was wrong. The first sign of trouble came when his scouts reported unusual activity on Elysium. The humans were not panicking. They were not trying to flee. Instead, they were gathering in their cities, forming organized groups, preparing for battle. They are not scared, one of his officers observed. They almost seem eager. Krexel dismissed the concern. They are pretending to be brave. They know they cannot win. This is just a show. But as his fleet approached Elysium, he began to see things that troubled him. The human settlements were surrounded by defensive walls and weapons platforms. Their ships, which had seemed so primitive when viewed from a distance, were actually sophisticated vessels bristling with firepower. And there were so many of them, far more than he had expected. "Commander," his tactical officer said nervously, "the humans have been building. They have been preparing for this. They knew we would come." "Impossible, how could they know?" "Perhaps they always knew. Perhaps they have been waiting for us." Krexel felt a chill run down his spine, but he pushed it aside. He had come too far to turn back now. His honor demanded that he fight. "All ships attack formation," he ordered. "We will show these humans that the Vrakthar are not afraid." The Battle of Elysium lasted 3 days. It was not the quick victory that Krexel had imagined. It was a grinding, brutal struggle that cost both sides dearly. The humans fought with the same ferocity that their ancestors had shown on the bright future. They used every weapon at their disposal, from precision missiles to improvised explosives. They fought in space and on the ground, in cities and in forests. They refused to retreat, refused to surrender, refused to give up even when the situation seemed hopeless. Tommy Chin, now an old man, watched the battle from his home on the outskirts of the capital. He had retired from teaching years ago, but he still remembered the lessons his father had taught him. He still remembered the day the Vrakthar had first come. His grandson, a young pilot named David, came to visit him on the second day of the battle. David's uniform was torn and stained, and there was a bandage on his forehead, but his eyes were clear and determined. "Grandfather," he said, "I came to ask for your blessing. My squadron is going out again. We are going to hit their command ship." Tommy looked at the young man who carried his blood and his name. He thought about the bright future and Captain Santos, about Elena Rodriguez and all the warriors who had come before. He thought about what it meant to be human. "You have my blessing," he said quietly. "But David, remember something. We do not fight because we hate our enemies. We fight because we love our home. We fight because we love each other. That love is what makes us strong. It is what makes us dangerous. Never forget that." David nodded, tears in his eyes. He hugged his grandfather one last time and then left to join his squadron. The attack on the Vrakthar command ship was led by pilots from 3 different nations, young men and women who had grown up on Elysium but still called themselves human. They flew into a storm of enemy fire, losing ships and friends with every kilometer. But they kept going, driven by something that the Vrakthar could not understand. David's fighter was hit in the final approach. His engines were damaged, his weapons were depleted, and his co-pilot was unconscious. He could have turned back. He could have saved himself. Any sensible pilot would have retreated. But David was human, and humans did not retreat when their families were in danger. He aimed his damaged fighter at the command ship's bridge and accelerated. Warning lights screamed at him. His body pressed back into his seat as gravity tried to tear him apart. In his final moments, he thought about his grandfather, his parents, the children playing in the streets of the city below. The explosion was visible from Elysium's surface. The command ship broke apart, taking Krexel and his senior officers with it. The remaining Vrakthar ships, leaderless and confused, began to scatter. The battle was over. The humans had won again. In the days that followed, the people of Elysium mourned their dead and rebuilt their world. They added new names to the memorial wall, new stories to their history. David Chen became a legend, the pilot who had sacrificed everything to save his home. Tommy spoke at his grandson's funeral, his voice steady despite his age and grief. "David did what our ancestors taught us to do," he said. "He protected the ones he loved. He showed the galaxy once again that humans are not prey, not victims, not creatures to be conquered. We are warriors. We are survivors. We are the children of a death world, and we will never stop fighting for each other." The Vrakthar who survived the battle returned to their homeworld with tales of horror. They spoke of humans who flew their ships into certain death, who charged into battle with smiles on their faces, who fought like demons and died like heroes. They spoke of a species that had evolved on a world so dangerous that death itself held no fear for them. This time, the lesson stuck. The Vrakthar Empire passed new laws forbidding any attack on human settlements. They sent diplomats to Elysium, offering peace and trade. They admitted that they had been wrong, that humans were not prey to be hunted but neighbors to be respected. Other species took notice as well. The story of Elysium spread through the galaxy like wildfire, adding to the legend of humanity. Some beings began to call Earth by a new name, the Mother of Warriors, the Cradle of Fire, the world that produced the most dangerous creatures in the known universe. And humans, they went on with their lives. They raised their children and built their cities. They explored new worlds and made new friends. They lived in peace whenever possible, but they trained for war always. Because that was the lesson of their history, the truth written in their DNA. The universe was a dangerous place. But for the children of the Deathworld, danger was just another word for home. On the 100th anniversary of the bright future's arrival, the people of Elysium held a great celebration. Old and young gathered in the capital square, beneath a monument that showed Captain Maria Santos standing tall with a child in her arms. The inscription below read, "We fight for them." The current governor, a woman named Sarah Okonkwo, great-granddaughter of Sergeant James Okonkwo, gave the keynote speech. She spoke of sacrifice and courage, of love and determination. She spoke of what it meant to be human. "Our ancestors came to this world seeking peace," she said. "They found war instead, but they did not let that break them. They fought, they bled, they died, and they won. Not because they were the strongest or the fastest, not because they had the best weapons or the biggest ships. They won because they loved something more than their own lives. They loved their children. They loved each other. They loved the dream of a future where their descendants could live in peace." She paused, looking out at the crowd. There were humans of every age and background, children with bright eyes and elders with wise smiles. There were even some aliens in the audience, representatives of species that had become friends and allies over the years. "The galaxy still does not fully understand us," Sarah continued. "They look at us and see soft skin and round faces. They wonder how such fragile-looking creatures could come from a world that tried to kill us every day. They do not understand that our softness is not weakness. It is a choice. We choose to be kind, to be gentle, to prefer peace over war. But make no mistake, that choice can change in an instant. Threaten our homes, threaten our families, threaten our children, and you will see the warriors that hide beneath our soft exterior." She raised her hand and the crowd raised theirs in response. "We are humanity," she declared. "We are the children of the Deathworld. We are peaceful when we can be and deadly when we must be, and we will always, always protect our own." The crowd erupted in cheers. Fireworks exploded overhead, filling the sky with light and color. Music played and people danced, celebrating not just their survival but their identity. In the crowd, a young girl tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy," she asked, "why do the aliens call us Deathworld warriors?" Her mother knelt down and smiled. "Because we come from a world where living was hard, where we had to fight every day just to survive. That made us strong, sweetheart. It made us brave. But we don't have to fight anymore, right? We hope not. We always hope for peace. But if bad people ever threaten us, we will be ready. That is what it means to be human. We protect the ones we love." The girl nodded seriously, accepting this as children accept all great truths. She looked up at the stars, visible even through the light of the fireworks, and wondered what was out there. What dangers lurked in the darkness? What enemies might someday come? But she was not afraid. She was the daughter of warriors, the heir to a legacy of courage and love. Whatever came, she and her people would face it together. That was the human way. That was what Deathworld warriors did. And somewhere out there, among the countless stars and endless worlds, alien children were being told stories about the humans. Stories meant to frighten, to warn, to teach. Stories about soft-looking creatures who became monsters when their families were threatened. "Never go to their worlds," the alien parents said. "Never threaten their children. They do not forgive and they do not forget. They are the warriors of the Deathworld and they will show you no mercy." The human children grew up learning to be kind. The alien children grew up learning to be careful. And the galaxy turned on, year after year, century after century, with humanity taking its place among the stars. Not as prey, not as conquerors, but as protectors, as warriors, as the fierce, loving, unstoppable children of Earth. This was their story. This was their legacy, and it would echo through the universe until the last star burned out and the final darkness came. But even then, even at the end of all things, somewhere in the void, a human voice would whisper, "We are still here. We are still fighting, and we will never ever stop." Because that was what Deathworld warriors did. That was what humans were. Forever and always, until the end of time and beyond.